Russian trolls spreading disinformation across the European Union, governments in the EU spying on journalists, business people buying newspapers to gain influence. Media freedom appears under attack from outside and within the bloc. That is why the European Commission says it is introducing new legislation to protect free and independent journalism, the European Media Freedom Act. Let's talk about that with Věra Jourová, the European Commission Vice President charged with EU values and transparency. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much for your interest.
Madam Vice President, media freedom in the European Union is a fundamental right. So how can it be that this right is under threat right now? How did we get there?
We saw this trend over several years. We have good data year by year comparing that there is really a negative trend, political attacks, economic distress, spying journalists, worsening situation for the journalists when it comes to their safety, abusing justice system against journalists. So you ask about how it is possible. Well, we were relying a lot on member states' rules and legislation. And at some moment we realized, wait a minute, this is a pan-European problem. And if we let the trend continue, if the media will be weakened beyond some line, we will not be able to see democracy protected sufficiently. So that's why we are coming with the legally binding rules, and I believe that we are ahead of a difficult legislative process maybe, but I'm ready to push it through because I believe we need it.
So you're saying that the member states are to blame for the situation?
No, I would not formulate that. I just realized that we have a very uneven standard and level of protection of media in our member states. There are countries where there are a lot of safeguards, and I can name Germany. That's why I had to give a lot of promises to different German figures and politicians and also the media organizations that we are not going to destroy the systems which work well. But I also try to convince everybody that there are gaps. There is this trend where we see that without the legally binding rules, the media will be the victims of the worsening situation. Just look at the platforms and their power. The money which went to the big platforms, which weakened the media economically. Look at some states which try to use the political power to influence the editorial content. Look at using the spyware against the journalists. You named at the beginning the problems we face.
And the Commission says that this Media Freedom Act would enhance media independence and transparency. How is it going to do it exactly?
We are focusing on several big things on the basis of the problems identified. So first of all, we are warning the member states, the political layer, do not interfere. Let the journalists do the job. Don't use the spyware. Don't push them to disclose the sources of information. At the same time, we are alerting when it comes to public service media. We believe that the right of people to have objective information and neutral kind of news, we need to see in all the member states highly professional public service media, not state media or party media. We see a lot of public money being sent to media through advertising, and we want to see how much and to which media. In other words, we want to see more transparency in how the public money is used, whether you just buy the space or whether you also buy some editorial gratitude. And we don't see a lot of information regarding transparency of ownership of media.
In a recent interview, you said that Hungary often criticized for its handling of media, was an inspiration for the bill. What exactly did you mean by that?
Well, of course, we had to. We had in mind several concrete cases when I was asked very intensively, what will the Commission do in this House? I was grilled so many times. And I had to repeat, well, we do not have any tool in hand. We cannot act when we see something wrong happening in Hungary or in Poland, or we had an issue in Slovenia. We see some negative trend in many other member states. And, you know, you reply 9 times, I cannot do anything. And the 10th time you are not willing to repeat it anymore. So the solution is the European law. I will honestly try to convince everybody that this is a good thing. We will have a maybe difficult legislative process, but everybody has to admit that the media are not protected enough in Europe.
But talking about Hungary, will this legislation have immediate effects on Hungary? For instance, on media owned by oligarchs close to the government?
Of course, it cannot be used retroactively. Sorry, I'm a lawyer, so I have to mention that. But this law sets the criteria for which will be used for assessment of concentration of media ownership. And I believe that the monopoly KESMA, which we see in Hungary functioning, would not be possible, would not have been possible with such a law.
And critics in Hungary are already saying that this proposed legislation is a concealed threat to freedom of speech. So is the Commission protecting the freedom of media by restricting freedom of speech, by restricting opinions that the Commission doesn't like?
This is a fatal misunderstanding. I don't know if I made some mistake in communication, but vice versa. We want by this law to increase the protection of the freedom of speech. That's why I also mentioned the platforms, that there should be special treatment for the professional journalists to be able to place their opinions and their news in the digital space. And I have to repeat that we are not regulating media themselves. We are regulating the space for the media.
The European Parliament this week said that Hungary is a systemic threat to EU values. As a commissioner in charge of those values, do you believe that governments like the one in Budapest should have a space in the European Union?
You can imagine the Commission shares a lot of concerns which are in the resolution, which was already in the previous one. We see issues in judiciary system. We discuss the media, shrinking space for the civil society. There are thousands of little or bigger things which caused some kind of erosion of the Hungarian democracy. And so this is now the choice for Hungary to prove that they belong to the club of European democratic countries. Well, it's my job to have a dialogue with Hungary or to use the tools which I have as a commissioner to try to convince them through different measures to come back.
And in the past, Viktor Orbán, the Hungarian Prime Minister, already verbally attacked you and demanded your resignation. So are you not afraid of a backlash in Hungary and in other countries, for instance Poland, because of this legislation?
When you enter politics, you cannot take things personally. I had several other enemies. I realized that there is something on the slogan, it's my slogan, tell me who your enemies are and I will tell you who you are. And I was not happy that Mr. Orbán was attacking me. But I was happy that Ursula von der Leyen protected me, that she was supporting me. And I think that in general, it is not a good thing that in politics we do not speak about opponents, but more we speak about adversaries or enemies. I think that we should come back to some kind of decent politics where we work with the arguments rather than with offenses.
But how does it feel to have a European leader as your enemy?
Well, it sounds cynical if I say I got used to it. And I also have a lot of friends.
And you grew up in the communist regime in the then Czechoslovakia before the Iron Wall went down. So how has this experience impacted your personal view of journalists and media?
It's uneasy to compare the time before the revolution and after, because we cannot speak about any media in communist Czechoslovakia. Yeah, there was some newspaper, there was TV, but my father always was telling me, Veruška, do not believe anything what you read in newspaper. It was a very important part of my education and equipment for the rest of my life. Today, my message would be, please people, do not believe everything you read. And here comes my fight against disinformation and fake news.
And now we have regimes like the one in Russia, and the Commission is saying you want to restrict foreign propaganda and disinformation, but isn't this motion coming too late?
You know, we have in DNA in Europe that we really protect the freedom of speech, and the media doing the job must be protected. But then we came to the point when we saw that Russia Today and Sputnik became just the war weapons, not the media anymore. So if it came late, I think it came in the proper moment, together with enhancing the support of the journalists in Ukraine, and we are sending a lot of money to help the heroes. Also, they are heroes working there in the battlefield.
Madam Vice President, thank you very much.